welcome back to the channel. Today we're out in the greenhouse discussing the use of waste metal and repurposing it into tools and hardware for around the greenhouse for absolutely free using solar power and free wood we have. If that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into this. Let's start with the melting points of certain metals. So we've got aluminum that we're working with today. It's about 1221 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the melting point of it when it becomes a liquid. And that's a relatively low melting point for a rigid metal that you're able to make things with that's not going to completely break or be malleable, such as lead or thin tin. Now we've got copper coming in at like 1900 degrees Fahrenheit. It requires 2200 degrees Fahrenheit to melt iron. And then we have lower ones like lead, which is about 630 degrees Fahrenheit required to melt it. And then we've got about 450 degrees Fahrenheit to melt tin. And then we've got mercury, the strange metal that it is. Its melting point is negative 37 degrees. Now we've had plenty of experience with creating temperatures that are able to reach the melting point of a lot of those metals. We did a lot of our own bricks, and to be able to turn those bricks, our regular clay bricks, into metamorphic rock, we required very high temperatures in order to achieve the orange terracotta color and to make them waterproof and turn them into a real homemade brick. So we're going to use the same solar powered system to achieve that today, to be able to melt this aluminum. And I just want to run through some of the things that we've made so far and what our ideas are. And if you guys have some ideas, I'd love to hear those ideas, because we have a bunch of recycled aluminum and lots more to make. So we've got all of our ingots here that are basically just pure aluminum. All of those impurities are burnt off, so we can pour them into a muffin tin like this, and then we're left with a whole bunch of ingots that look like this. So it's a pretty simple process of letting all of the impurities burn off, and then we'll just pour ourselves some ingots. That way we're able to achieve clean aluminum, and we can just put these right into the crucible, and then we're ready to go. As soon as we melt it, we can pour. So a normal wood burning stove like this one behind me is going to reach between 500 and 900 degrees Fahrenheit without any forced air being added to it. You need more air, you need more fuel to be able to achieve those high temperatures. So forced induction is going to be our method of heating all of this metal to the point where it melts. Now we thought about using a little bit of drip oil. We have a bunch of waste oil we've been accumulating for a drip oil system. We don't want to use our waste oil drip system for inside the greenhouse on our stove, so we're definitely going to use it on an outside system sometime this summer. Not today. Today we are achieving these melting temperatures with just wood and solar power. So we're getting forced induction with a little solar blower. We're gonna go check all that out. I just wanted to reiterate that a regular wood burning stove is probably not going to reach the temperatures to melt the metal. It might melt an aluminum can down to pieces and turn it to ash, but you're not going to achieve the temperatures it requires to heat up a crucible to be able to turn this to a liquid to be able to be poured. Just wanted to look behind the camera here. You can see how clear the water is now. You can see pretty deep down into the little pond here. We are definitely filtering some water. We're going to do an update on that as we add more plants to our little biological filter. So we've got all of our ingots here, plenty of ingots to work with, and I wanted to show what we've been making so far. Today we're going to go pour a DIY hammer, a little aluminum hammer. So this is the process. We began trying to pour ourselves up a replica of this handle. Now we used our own foundry sand here, and this foundry sand dries out super fast. So we were able to make a couple pours with it, and then it's burnt up and dried out. We have to add water and let it get the correct amount of moisture back in. So what we've been doing is just pouring directly into some dirt. So you can see that we had experimented with several molds trying to get this down, had a lot of failures here, and we're going to recycle the failures. This one was getting a little closer to being a handle, and then we created ourselves almost a perfect replica of our handle here. So these are going to be able to be used. I'm going to tack these up just like this. So we'll be able to tack those down, and then we've got ourselves a nice little handle that moves right onto the side of our sifter here. So I'm going to tack that down after a while here. I just wanted to show what we've been making and the experiments we've been doing. And we poured ourselves a little cross emblem, just tiny little mold here. Aluminum is quite hard to pour into a small mold like that. You need a very tiny crucible and very hot aluminum. I just want to show this piece here. So this is a nice stake. Now we pound this in the ground to hold all of our tarping down. So we will just push this right down, and then our tarp will be underneath this side here, and it's a nice stake to hold tarping down in the garden or wherever we need it. So this was just something that I experimented with. We've just been trying to see what we can make. I just wanted to show the ideas that we've came up with so far. We can definitely use these little aluminum handles all over the place. I've always got little sifters and stuff that need handles on them. So we've got tons of scrap aluminum here, just tons of scrap aluminum. And it can use pop cans, beer cans, any type of aluminum you can find. Now we try and get all the plastic off. There might be some paint or plastic on these pieces here, but for the most part we'll just clean them all off, and then we melt them down, and then we turn all of them right into ingots there. So instead of making ingots today, what we're going to do is take our ingots and directly put them into our crucible here. We've got our tongs, we've got our crucible, so we will take 1 or 2 of these. Here's a small one, so we'll take 2.5 ingots. We're gonna take these right outside here, go check out our setup. So I had pre-started a fire. It's not very warm right now, but there is a bunch of coals in there. So I just set my crucible right down in there, and we are going to feed the fire with this little solar powered blower. Now this thing is pretty darn cool. I've showed it a few times and it really works. I mean, you can see we've kind of burnt up our little PVC end here. Get a whole picture of everything here. So it's a very simple setup. We hook it up to a battery. We've got a little trickle charger here just to keep it going so we don't drain our battery too much. So we are able to achieve all of those temperatures with a bunch of free recycled offcuts. And we don't want to use these in the greenhouse because they are treated wood and they do put off some nasty smoke and a lot of soot that will fill our chimney. So we've got this little kiln here that we've made. The bottom is made with all of our own bricks, and these bricks hold up a lot better than this concrete. You can see the concrete's just crumbling apart while our bricks have taken fire after fire, and we just beat them up with all the sticks and everything we shove in here, and they are holding because they were forged in fire. So they are able to resist those temperatures, and they do very well. So I just simply hooked up our blower, plugged it into the battery. I've got our little trickle charger hooked up to it as the sun's starting to hit it. And then we are blowing some good heat already right into that kiln. We're basically gonna give this maybe 20 minutes, maybe have to add a little bit more wood. Let's go check out our little pour area while that heats up. So we've got this little hatchet hammer looking shape. It's hard to kind of see, but this whole area, so we're just pouring right into the soil. I will just take my short fork, really pulverize the soil, and then we're able to pour right into our garden. Basically, we've got all our tomatoes over on this patch here on this side of the property. So I just took a piece of PVC and pushed it down. You can see my footprint. I stepped on the PVC, pushed it in, and then I took the butt of a screwdriver and just pounded it out to the shape that I wanted. Now this is a very rough and tough version of pouring Foundry, and like I said, we had our Foundry sand, it dried out, so I'm sick of using the Foundry sand. We've had pretty good success. We poured our handles right into the soil here. So I've got good confidence that this will work for us. We're gonna hopefully make this hammer here today as all of that melts and heats up. I just wanted to state that this is a very rough and tough version of Foundry. You can take a piece of foam and you can put it right into sand, regular sand, and you can just pour right in there as long as you've got a little feed hole. You can basically burn out that foam and replace it with aluminum. In whatever shape you had buried in the foam, you will have a piece of aluminum that is almost identical as long as your aluminum is hot enough and the sand doesn't collapse on itself if it's not. So after about 10 minutes, that's hot. You can hear the roar of the fire even over the little blower here. So while we're waiting for that to heat up and melt on us, let's go check this little handle I made out here. So as I was showing everybody, we made ourselves a replica of this little iron handle. So we made ourselves some aluminum handles here, little aluminum handles. So we're going to be attaching them with this little wire hanger here. Very, very simple stuff. You can bend this very easily, make it into whatever shape you want. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that and see how well this works for us. So now we've attached ourselves a handle, 100% free handle. Now, I made it so I can move it around a little bit. It slides back and forth, but it will not come out of those brackets. So I've got a good solid handle that I can pick this up with. Very, very cool to be able to use anything that you can make a shape out of. You can just basically remake it out of recycled materials. So I want to point out one trick or tip to this to make this a lot easier. This has been about 15 minutes later. That thing is roaring and the metal is starting to get very hot. You can see that our crucible is glowing red at the base, so it's not going to be very long before that melts. But we've been taking our tongs here and we're constantly shoving all of this wood back as close as we can, trying to build up a lot of hot coals right underneath that little crucible. The closer they are to the coals and the more air you can feed into it, the better off and the hotter it'll get and the faster you'll be able to pull. So here we are after about 20 minutes and we've got pretty well melted aluminum in there. We're going to be pouring here in about 5 minutes. We only ended up using about 6 or 7 of our little wood blocks, our recycled wood blocks, the little offcuts we've been using. So here we are with our DIY hammer. Now, this thing came out pretty darn cool. I mean, the bottom side where we actually poured in to the soil isn't 100% flush, but it does look pretty good. It's not too bad. There's a few bubbles here and there. Nice handle, shaft. So this is the top side that you guys saw as we poured it into the soil there. So now with a little bit of cleaning with a file or a grinder, I can make this either a point or I can make it flat, and we've got ourselves a very solid hammer. And this is like 10 minutes after I poured it. It's still warm, but I sank it in the water and let it sit, and now we've got ourselves a very nice solid little tool. Primitive tool, yes. Very primitive hammer, yes, but it is a hammer nonetheless, and it's nice and solid. It's not going to break on me. All of these little pores we've made so far, like these little handles, these hold my body weight. We can tack this to a tree and make our own handles, or carry something that's very heavy. We could even tie strings to each side and carry bags of soil, compost, or you can just loop it into the handles. There's a whole bunch of uses for all of these little DIY recycled pores here. Now this one is going to come in very handy. We're going to find a bunch of uses for this hammer. Same thing with our handle. So recycling all of this aluminum, this recycled aluminum recycling all of this aluminum in the bucket and any aluminum we can acquire and pouring them into ingots and making it very easy for ourselves to pour up anything that we can create in our mind and whatever we can design in the soil. I just wanted to show everybody that we could make our own tools from recycled aluminum, 100% free materials, 100% free recycled wood. I mean, I bought that solar blower. That's your choice. You don't have to use solar power and a blower system. You can use a regular fan, some type of centrifugal fan, and plug it in. There's a lot of sources. Like I said, with our waste oil, we decided against that for now. We can get a lot better burn. We use 6, 7, maybe 8 pieces of those little triangle offcuts to achieve the temperatures are required to melt 2.5 of these little ingots here into a nice DIY hammer. So we're able to achieve that very, very cheaply. And whatever we think of, we're able to create out of our own metal. Now, we might experiment with brass and copper, and steel might be kind of hard to achieve out of our little DIY kiln there, but everything you see is what you get. We did everything right in front of everybody today. Very, very simple to do. You can do this at home. It is able to be done, and you can make your own parts and pieces. And we literally just poured this right into our garden soil. We packed the soil down, pressed out the shape we wanted, and we melted the metal and poured into it. So being able to do that yourself is very, very cool. I'm going to go clean this up in the garage a little bit, any rough edges, which this is a pretty darn clean pour. It turned into a little metal hammer. So very, very cool. It's not super thick on the head here, but it is going to be able to break rock up and break some of our DIY bricks that were failed and crush some things up and possibly pound nails in. So we've got plenty of things to use this for. So if you have any ideas on something you'd like to see poured up or anything else you'd like to see experimented with, definitely drop it in the comments below. I'd like to thank all my subscribers for checking this one out. If you made it to the end here, I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.